All right, Chris Cuomo here. Welcome to NewsNation. I'm going to speak some truth to you tonight. And it's not being said, and people may say, not right now. Yes, now. Now is the time. But first, I must honor the moments that we have been waiting for. Thank God the hostages are home. I know they're all over the place. I know there are so many, but it is a time to watch and to absorb. Yeah, these scenes break your heart. But let me tell you what haunts me the most when I watch this. The reactions of the families who were waiting. They seem so much more excited than those returning from terrorist captivity, a little counterintuitive. Now, part of that is the hostages are numb, emotionally, psychologically damaged from their unfathomable 2-year experience held by savages, and the healing will take so long. But there is something else on display here, the toll of terror. Hamas stole these people for leverage, but also to spread fear. These families have been frozen for years, waiting on reports, like so many others, that their loved ones were dead. Now the truth. I'm not here for all these fakers saying that they're happy the hostages are home. More than anything else today, these reunions make me angry. I refuse to reward savages like Hamas for what they did today. They did not do the right thing. They did the only thing they could to buy more time with their foot on the neck of their people. Second, this took too long. I'm not sure why. I'll keep asking. But President Biden had a similar deal on the table. Whether it was President Trump and the coalition of influence that made the difference with a similar deal, or whether it was Bibi deciding to finally put the hostages first, I don't know. But we're here. And I just believe it did not have to take this long. Now, most of all, I refuse to be part of a chorus rejoicing with opportunists and hypocrites in our own country who have made sport of the Middle East in the social media cesspool of competitive banter, accusing Israel of everything Hamas is really about. Only one party here wants to annihilate the other, and we all know it. These supposed humanitarians, they helped Hamas keep these people in captivity longer. That's a major accusation. How? By exaggerating the conditions, by exaggerating the killings in Gaza, by exaggerating what got us here and what this is about, creating sympathy for terrorist savages, pretending they are freedom fighters. They will not be part of my show tonight because they are part of the problem. Now, if I'm wrong, and not in some clever bullshit way on Twitter, okay? If I'm wrong, and these pundits and pod people are all about humanity and the suffering, forget about the fact that they don't give a damn about suffering anywhere else. They don't even really care about the suffering in Gaza, and I can prove it. Right now, they are still focused, even now, on the fiction of Israel and genocide, but not what's actually happening right now in Gaza. Do you see what's happening? This is old footage. Do not screw this up. Put the Hamas footage from now. Look at them back in uniform, putting on their black clothing and their green headscarves. You haven't seen that. You know why? Because they've been hiding among civilians wearing civilian clothes, which is a war crime, by the way. But you'll never hear about that from any of the people jumping up and down about genocide, right? They don't even mention this. Why? Because it destroys the fiction of a genocide. Now, ask yourself, would Hamas dress as and hide among civilians if they thought Israel was targeting all civilians? Don't think so. Why are these humanitarians silent about what's on your screen right now in the streets of Gaza? It's not a secret. It's all over. These are your freedom fighters killing innocent Gazans, reestablishing the subjugation that they have always been about. Just like in 2005, when the great oppressor Israel backed out voluntarily. What happened then? Go Google it. Ask ChatGPT. Not peace, not democracy, bloodshed, as rival groups of scumbags battled for control. This is not my hot take. This is history. And what's happening right now out of the mouths of Gazans who are living in fear of Hamas. And the terrorists are promising more executions tomorrow. Where's the outcry? Where are all the Why am I having to tell you this? Why am I? Why am I the one saying this? Where's the outrage online against what's being done to innocent Gazans? This is the new normal. You will have scenes of armed men shooting civilians here in the leg in the middle of the street. It's going to be happening more and more. I guess if Israel's not involved, the humanity is not enough. And back here, leaders who made Gaza and by extension Hamas their cause, the leaders of the Democratic Party, Senator Bernie Sanders, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, nothing about these scenes and the inhumanity and that it's gone on too far for too long with too many. AOC said more about Bad Bunny than she did about the actions and bad actions of Hamas. Why? Maybe because her party has people in it who say globalize the intifada while running for office, and she supports them. I would have more respect if these people sucker punched their manufactured opponents in person rather than spreading the poison that they do to so many online. They would actually be less responsible for the political violence in this country if they were to just literally smack people that they don't agree with. This bullshit demonizing of Jews and sane washing of terrorists is as much to blame, in my opinion, for why we've waited so long for a deal as Bibi's bloodlust or any other political motivation. As far as I am concerned, Hamas did the minimum and they got the maximum. As far as I'm concerned, Hamas wins for now. They are legitimized by these negotiations and all of the posturing online, as if they had any interest in being the caretakers of their people. You're seeing in real time what they'll do for their people. And while these families got their loved ones back, who were legitimately stolen, Israel was forced to return hundreds of convicted terrorists, some to multiple life sentences for lynching and murdering innocent Israelis. Not hostages. Masterminds of suicide attacks on civilians. Not hostages. One guy raped and murdered a 13-year-old Israeli boy. Not hostages. Okay? Yes, some of those who are being returned were being held without charges. Welcome to war. But many were Hamas combatants in this war. And right now, Hamas is reportedly back to murdering in the open. And now they'll have more people to help them do it. Again, if you care about humanity, you do not congratulate Hamas for the 2-year destruction of innocents in their captivity. And you are not silent about what they're doing on their own streets right now. I want these families to have their moment and then be given their peace so that they can start to heal. They have a long journey that will last much longer than the period of captivity in front of them. And I wish them all blessed things. Any way we can help, we are here. Today is a bright spot in a very dark journey that is far from over, there or here. So let's talk with people who understand this moment, who are united with their loved ones, okay, and know what this morning is about, okay? Edan Alexander's 21-year-old son, Edan, was captured by Hamas, held hostage for 583 days. He was released this past May. He's in Tenafly, New Jersey, goes back and forth. He wants to rejoin the Israeli military. Amazing. What an amazing idea that is. I also want to bring in Nate Buzolic. He's a Christian worker, advocate, speaker. He's traveled to Israel dozens of times, got to know many of the released hostages, as well as some of the families, and he understands the dynamic of what this is about and what it means back here. Gentlemen, thank you for helping me make this moment understandable to the many. I apologize, Adi and Nate, for my anger. I said it before I got to you guys, so you guys don't have to own it, but now is not a time to hide what is real and true. Adi, for these families, how does it work getting the loved one home after the embrace, after that first wave of emotion? Now what?
First, thank you, Chris, for having me on the show. This deal wouldn't be happening without our president. But in regards for the families, people need to realize that the hostages that we know so well for 2 years are not a public property. They need to be left alone, at least at the beginning. They were in the tunnels, in the dark. And just let them be. Just let them be mindful. Kind of no selfies. Just let them be for a couple of weeks, and I guess everything will be fine now.
Are there the resources, Adi? Are there things that people like your son need that are hard to access, that are hard to even determine?
I don't think so. When Edan was released, we had the whole floor in a huge hospital for ourselves for a whole week. It was almost 23 rooms at this floor, and it was all empty only for us, with the psychologists, with the professionals. Not so many IDF members, only a hospital staff. And it went tremendously well at the first couple of days, up until Edan was released from the hospital.
Adi, I don't know if you're familiar with Nate and his work, but I got to tell you, Nate, our producer, Allison Wiener, turned me on to you, and I was looking at so much of your work and the reaction to it. Help people understand, as a Christian, wanting to go to the Holy Land to help with what you see happening there, but also to create an urgency back here at home. What is the mission for you?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on, Chris. Look, I really think the mission for the vast majority of the Christian world is to get them to understand what we're seeing happening in Israel is a biblical event. God promised to return the people to this land. He also promised once he returned them to the land that they would never be pulled out of that land again. That happens in Amos chapter number 9. He actually says, once I've planted them back in the land, never again will they be uprooted. Which is why when you see statements from, the pro-Palestinian camp saying from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, it'll be a direct defilement of the promises of God. And that's what a lot of Christians, I think, are missing. But more than that, I've spent, several years in Israel, 50 plus trips. I've lived in the land for different periods of time. And when you actually get to know the heart of this Israeli Jewish community, you're amazed at their ability to live, to have community, to find ways to prosper. I've been overwhelmed by how this people have overcome so much hatred, not just from the Arab Islamic world, but also now the anti-Israel world that the pro-Palestinian movement has been so successful at creating. Their number one goal over the last 2 years was to vilify Israel. That was the goal. That was to turn Israel into a place where they only had each other. And I think as a Christian, it's something that we have to acknowledge, that we are going to have to make a choice. There's a choice in front of us now. And the narrow road, the road that we're called to walk as Christians, is the road that's going to come with persecution. You stand up for Israel. You take a bold stand and say, I'm a proud Christian Zionist, and you will see an onslaught of hatred, accusations, lies, and horrible kind of threats will be thrown at you.
Nate, address it this way, and I appreciate you for doing so, because I know this is not a cost-free conversation for you. What do Americans who think they are on the side of the suffering, what are they missing about their advocacy or selective advocacy for what is happening in the Middle East?
Yeah. So everything the Palestinian movement is driven by is radical Islam, to put it simply. It's a radical jihadist movement that was born in the 1960s. The Arab Palestinian identity became exclusively Arab in the 1960s. Before that, there was no such thing as an Arab Palestinian. It was created in the 1960s with one goal and one goal alone: to counter the strong Jewish Israeli identity that they have to the land. And so what we're seeing is this is the Trojan horse. The Palestinian movement is the Trojan horse for radical Islam to enter into Western society. We saw that on college campuses. We've seen that in government. We've seen that in major organizations around the world. This is the Trojan horse. But once they get power, once they get influence, they want to take it all.
Gentlemen, thank you for the perspective. Adi, if there's anything I can do to help with your son, I know he wants to go back, work in intelligence, but if he wants to stay here in the States, if he wants to, get exposed to American media, we're a call away. You call, we'll do whatever we can.
Sure
and Nate,
thing.
as you go forward with this, you know it, Adi, you know how to get us. If we can help, it's easy. It's done. Just call. And Nate, as you're going forward, communicating that we haven't even begun to see the reality of what extreme Islamism can do to a society. Not Islam, not Muslims. It's not what I'm saying. I'm saying extremism in that particular faith, which perverts that faith. They think they know what that is in America. They have no idea. So, brother, thank you. I'm glad we connected. Adi, you know how to get me. All the best to both your families. Stay safe. 4 minutes and 35 seconds. Look, I don't even get why there's any kind of dance about the politics of this situation. Bravo to America. Bravo to President Trump and his administration. I'm glad they got this done. I'm glad he brought in all of these other countries. What I want to know is, why did it take so long? Okay? And where is the energy going to come for what still has to happen? We'll break it into two parts, okay? How did this get done, and why did it take so long? Next.
Life over death and hope over strife and harmony over hatred. That's what we want. We want it to be that way because together we're going to forge a magnificent, great, and enduring peace.
First, the easy part. I didn't think it was going to happen. Bravo to America. Bravo to the Trump administration. Bravo to President Trump, especially something I really didn't expect. What I thought was just going to be a regular Trump victory lap. He brought in so many countries to celebrate this. Why? Because they made it happen? Nope. But because he needs them to make what needs to happen next happen. Very smart. Very smart. Now, why is that hard to say? Because in our politics, you cannot recognize the other side. It is like saying Hitler has a nice haircut. You can't do it. And that's why we're dying. That is the poison. Not here. Not NewsNation. Here, we do not take a side. I attack the idea of sides. So, two questions. One, why did this take so long? Now, I'm not blaming this administration, but Biden had the same deal. What's the difference, okay? What made it happen? And what does that tell us about what has to happen going forward? My mentor, Aaron David Miller, Middle East negotiator, has a very interesting pedigree of having worked in presidential administrations, both of Republican and Democratic flavor. And Victoria Coates, former Deputy National Security Advisor in the first Trump administration. Thank you to the both. ADM, thank you for joining me. Help me with these questions. The Biden deal you knew very well. The dynamic then versus now. What made the difference?
And let's be clear, Chris, your first point about not being able to acknowledge success. The reality is President Trump, in my judgment, is presiding over the erosion of American norms and institutions in a constitutional government that he's duly sworn to uphold. Nonetheless, let me be very clear. No president that I worked for, Republican or Democrat, ever had the kinds of conversations with an Israeli prime minister or summoned and marshaled up the pressure, both on Netanyahu and on key Gulf states, that persuaded Hamas that the hostages, which Yahya Sinwar, the architect of the October 7 terror surge, believed was his primary asset. They convinced Hamas, and I would argue Hamas was smart to accept that the hostages were becoming a liability, because as long as they held hostages, 20 alive, 28 tragically dead, the Israeli campaign would be relentless and no one would be able to constrain them. So why did this happen? It would not have happened. Again, let's be very clear. No Democrats have acknowledged this. I think it's symptomatic, frankly, of the problem in our politics. This happened because of Trump. It happened because he pushed Netanyahu. It's a very pro-Israeli deal, but the prime minister really did not want to go there. And he convinced the Qataris and the Turks, Hamas's key supporters, other than the Iranians, who aren't much value to Hamas these days, that it was in their best interest to give up the hostages. Whether this goes further is going to depend on the president owning this. You could have 100, I've been at these ceremonies in Sharm, in Cairo, everywhere. It's the morning after the peace conference that the real work has to start. And if President Trump is prepared to show the will and the skill that he demonstrated in pushing this over the line, you might even get to an end of the war in Gaza.
But Victoria, you got to shift from the me to the we on this at some point. I mean, you have all these posers in the region about the Arab Brotherhood and all this stuff. And, Trump absolutely put his footprint on this, but there are going to be so many requirements. I mean, yes, I get why ADM says that this is there are advantages for Israel in this deal, but look at who Hamas got back. Look at how they're being dealt with as like a legitimate state actor. To me, there's a big win for them in this that they do not deserve. So when you look at how we got here and how it informs how you do get to this morning after reintroduction of process, what has to happen?
Well, I would actually agree that this is a big win for the United States, and I would draw the equivalency with the demise of Osama bin Laden under President Obama, where I think most Americans, I mean, I remember the Phillies were playing the Mets, and we all came together and chanted USA, USA, USA. And it didn't matter who the president of the United States was. The justice had been done for grievous harm to our country. And that's where I think we can all come together behind this. The release of the hostages, the resolution of that particular crisis in Gaza, between Gaza and Israel, that was the key thing that the president focused on right after President Trump did, right after re-election. I remember being in Jerusalem when his first statement came out, let them go. This burden is on Hamas. It was very powerful, and it got us to where we are today. So I agree with Aaron David that what is coming is going to be very, very difficult. They're very complicated. We've both been through 1 million of these plans. We're hopeful that we can get somewhere, but this just feels different to me this time because of the president bringing together the Arab world, Israel, and the United States.
Quick bounce question on that, Victoria. I do not believe that America has come together and celebrated this the way they did Osama bin Laden. I think social media has something to do with that. But there's also just all this opportunism at play now over the division, right? The division is monetized on social media. So there are a lot of people. What do you say to this perspective? Well, returning the hostages is great, but that was the price we had to pay to stop the genocide. Do you think that that's what this is about?
No, it isn't. But the fact, Chris, that you and Aaron David and I are here having a civil conversation on NewsNation about this means that all is not lost. I think it means that there are enough reasonable people on both sides of the aisle who care about these issues, who are experienced working these issues, that we can come together and discuss them. So yes, I mean, the folks that are saying that, I agree. It's awful. It's ridiculous. It's anti-American. But this is not the whole of the story. I think the story is actually being told here tonight.
Listen, I agree, and I'm happy to do it on NewsNation the way we believe is right. But ADM, You know, you're seeing polls now where you have a majority of Jews in America are saying, yeah, Israel's committing a genocide. And, you know, we know what the propaganda is here. So it creates an interesting dynamic of who stops Hamas now. When we have that repeat of what we saw in 2005, of what happens when there's a power vacuum there and all the clans go crazy and Hamas sees how many people they can pay off with the aid that's coming in that's supposed to be for the suffering, who will stop them this time?
I mean, the decommissioning, demilitarization of Gaza is going to be a very tough lift. And let's be clear, I talked to my friends in the Israeli intelligence community, largely the veterans. And what they will tell you is that Hamas's roots in Gaza, Chris, run deep, both in terms of their religious indoctrination, but more important, the social net, the so-called dawah, the call in which they have used social and economic assistance to create deep roots within the Gazan community. The thousands of policemen who were deployed, Chris, over the last several days, who do you think those policemen, who is the mandate that is directing those policemen? It's Hamas. Hamas is using since 2007 when they took over Gaza, and the Palestinian Authority was defraying the salaries of many of the administration officials who helped Hamas run Gaza until 2023. This is going to be a hard thing. And the only way you can beat Hamas is by creating a legitimate and authoritative Palestinian alternative. I worry about the peace board. I worry about Palestinian representation as being this sort of afterthought, because you're going to have to come up with a legitimate counter in order to do this. And I'll defer to Victoria on this one. I think it'd be very hard for Arab or Muslim peacekeepers to deploy into Gaza with Hamas still with their weapons as an insurgency and the Israelis occupying now 50%, even 30% of Gaza, because Arab peacekeepers will not shoot Palestinians and Arab peacekeepers will not remain in Gaza as Israelis shoot Palestinians. This is going to be a really tough lift, but it's critical, I think, to what I think, Chris, you want to see, which is Hamas's influence eradicated.
Well, here's what I don't want to see. I'll end on this. And thank you both for having this conversation. There will be many more needed. I don't want to see Israeli boots on the ground or their responsibility of keeping the peace there. And I don't want America involved. This is an Arab-Muslim problem. Let them deal with it finally. So let's take the win where we find it, take progress where we find it, onward. ADM, thank you very much. Victoria, you're always welcome. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. 4 minutes and 30 seconds. God bless. President Trump called today an historic dawn of a new Middle East. Listen, sounds wildly optimistic. I'm here for it, okay? What should be the next two steps? So let's build off that conversation, all right? I have two experts who've lived the realities of this war. What do they say? Next.
Hey, I have an idea. Mr. President, why don't you give him a pardon? Give him a pardon. Come on.
Sounds crazy, but if we learned a lesson here, it's that if you want to avoid turmoil, sometimes it's the lesser of two evils. And if Israel wants to transition to somebody who's more built for peace than Bibi, you know, they're going to have some fight on their hands. So that was the president trying to make deals, all right? That's what he does when he's at his best, okay? The question is, he got us here, and we'll talk about why. But more importantly, how do we get where we need to be, all right? I have perspective from two people who have lived the problem. One, favorite of mine, as you know, I'm That Jew founder, Edan Alexander, who's in Israel right now, and I cannot keep his shirts. All of my kids' friends take them from me. And senior fellow at the Atlantic Council and Palestinian American Ahmed Fouad Al-Khatib. Ahmed, it's good to have you. Thank you for being with me. Edan, as always, I know that there is joy because the families are being reunited. But there was cost here as well, and it is just one step. Do you agree with me that this took too long? This should have happened sooner?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know that the situation on the ground was right for it to happen sooner. I mean, I wish it wouldn't have happened at all, as I'm sure Ahmed would agree, and most moderate, good people would agree. But we're not dealing with normalcy here in the Middle East. We have on our border, literally 35-minute drive from where I'm sitting right now at home, we have jihadis who are controlling a population. And I think that the message was peace through strength. And only when you have proved peace through strength, maybe the situation on the ground can change. Maybe the same types of things were happening, but the political situation on the ground was not ready. And maybe now there is momentum. And I think Trump has been, look, I'm not a Middle East expert. I live in the Middle East. Mm-hmm. I'm an expert at being who I am, which is a Jewish man. But I think that Trump has a vision, and his vision is what is driving everything. You figure it out as you go along, but you get there. And he put together an amazing team, and he put the pressure on in the right place. But is it able to continue? It's not simple. Yes, people are happy here, Chris. We're full of joy, but there's a lot of pain. And we in Israel know that it's not, well, everything's over now. Everything's back to normal. We still have 24 hostages. We still have jihadis there. We still have a lot of problems in the country and with our neighbors. It's not simple.
Right.
But
understood.
What
Ahmed,
is there?
Look, as an American, I want Trump to take this progress, take credit for it, well due, focus on tariffs, come back home. We have a lot of problems here. I believe that the Arab community has to finally own what is happening in this space. Hamas is doing exactly what we saw happen in 2005. They are killing their own. They are marauding on the streets. They are battling clans. Who needs to stop that, Ahmed? It cannot be the United States, and it cannot be Israel.
Good to be with you, Chris. And so I met with many senior Arab officials on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly last month in New York. And I met with a Gulf official who's very personally close to President Trump. And you know what he said to me? He said, look, we cannot do anything without the United States. And I said to him, well, why? Like, we're supposed to be we have agency. We're supposed to be independent. We're supposed to look out for our own interests. And he said, you are foolish if you think that anything happens in the region, especially when it comes to Israel's interests and national security, without U.S. involvement, even behind the scenes. And so I have to say that while I agree with the sentiment, Chris, of what you're sharing, it is the reality that the United States, with its historic involvement in the region, with its resources, with its military assets, with the clout that U.S. diplomacy can bring to bear, are indispensable in kind of marshaling resources and marshaling all the different players needed. We saw what happened with Turkey and Qatar, the chief backers of Hamas, in getting the group to agree to releasing the hostages all at once, not in this drippy drab manner that we saw earlier this year. That took serious effort on the part of the United States to engage the two players. We also saw President Trump, let's be clear, he pressured Netanyahu into accepting a deal in a way that the prime minister would not have on his own. And so that's the role of the U.S. leadership in effectuating change. And that's why I want to see sustained engagement, not to handhold the Palestinians or the Israelis, but to really complete what was initiated by President Trump.
Edan, you heard what the president said there, President Trump, saying to the Israeli president, hey, give Bibi a pardon. Part levity, part not. Because if you guys want to hold elections in transition, you can make the argument Bibi is not the right guy for a peace phase. Do you think that there is appetite among the Israeli people, given what was happening before October 7th with his administration, for Bibi to get the ability to walk away?
Before I answer that, I want to talk about something which is about that Trump event in the Knesset, which I watched. And what was interesting to me was that he felt very relaxed. I mean, that's what it looked like. And there's a term in Hebrew, as you might probably both know, which is mishpacha, which means family. And I felt watching him that he felt like he was amongst his family. He was very casual. He was very off the cuff. He went off script, as we all saw, and it went on for a long time. And he was very funny. And I think that what was nice about what Trump did was, as I said at the beginning, is he has a vision to get people together, to put a team together, and to just like, we're going to get there somehow, but we have to get there. And I felt that that's something that we could all use. And I felt that that's something that we certainly need here on our side. We need a visionary leader that can think long-term about security and peace. And going back to what you asked earlier about American leadership, I think it's important, but I think that Israelis are ready to see Palestinians, Arabs, Arab leadership, Muslims rising to the occasion. And while they are helped, we want to see the vision coming from them. And I think that that's really, really important.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. That's a great point. And I want to end on it. Edan, you stayed up for me all night, and I appreciate you. But I don't know how you could sleep anyway. I mean, this is what has been waited for. We don't know what comes next, but right now there's a mitzvah amongst us right now.
I'll say one thing. I know that we have to go, and I do this to you sometimes. First of all, thank you for having me. Thank you for being a voice of moral clarity. And I want to say to all people who are listening in New York, I don't like Mamdani. I don't like him, and I hope that they go out and they vote for your brother who has moral clarity.
All right,
I don't trust that guy.
You want to get me fired? You want to get me fired?
No,
don't get me fired. All right,
I'm allowed to say it. That's my opinion.
All right,
I'm allowed to say it.
You can say it. I didn't want you to say it, but you said it. That's okay. I'm still an ally. I'm still an ally of that Jew, even if you get me fired. Ahmed, thank you very much for being with us. This conversation has to continue. I appreciate your contacts and your context. Thank you very much. 4 minutes and 15 seconds. Up next, a lot to process. What does it mean to you? Have your say. 844-968-7720. All right, Dusty, who do you got?
We got Lynn from Rhode Island.
Good evening,
Lynn,
Chris.
what's going on?
On this Columbus Day, as a fellow Italian, I am so proud of your opening. It was stunning. You should never, ever apologize for being an honest journalist. There aren't many left.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm not apologizing. I'm not going to use this moment to let people, get a pass as posers. They're not about the hostages. They're not about getting them back. They call it a genocide. They blame Israel. They empowered Hamas. And we are allowing extreme ideas make people money and develop following here on social media. And I'm telling you, it is putting us on a road to fundamentalism. That is why we don't even have an extreme Islamism issue here in this country yet. Okay? But we do have radicalized Americans who are doing the same thing that extreme Islamists or any terrorist would do. So, I'm not here for it. It's why I'm still doing the job. Because if I can help and tell the truth, I'll take the price. Next.
Tommy from Manhattan. Tommy's in the house.
Tommy, what's your question?
Hi, Chris. I love you, and I appreciate what you do on NewsNation. I just want to know why you're not helping your brother win this election in Manhattan. Because Mamdani is quite possibly going to be the mayor here.
All right. Tommy, give me a break. I'm not helping my brother. I talk to my brother all the time. I am on NewsNation. I am a journalist. I cannot cover the mayoral race, okay? It makes no sense. Interestingly, my bosses didn't feel that way, but I do, because I know how eager so many are to take me down. And I know what will happen to NewsNation, so I just won't go there. But the idea that I'm not helping my brother, I don't know how to make this any more clear to you guys. I'm a very flawed person. I think it's why I can identify with a lot of people in their struggles. I will do anything for my family. and the family that I choose in my life, okay? I'm not a great person in good times, but I am there in bad times, okay? And I love my brother. There's one male on the face of this planet that comes before him in my mind, and his name is Mario, and he's my son. Other than that, I am doing things for my brother all the time. Trust that. He is against a movement. And just as you guys should have learned with MAGA, okay? Once they pick a mascot, it doesn't matter how much you go after the mascot, because the grievance in the movement is a legitimate thing. The affordability crisis is a real thing. The anger at the institutions is a real thing. And it's very tough to beat. Andrew's up against it because he agrees with the grievance. He just doesn't agree with the mascot. But we saw what happened the last time. He's in a jam, but I don't deal with it here. But I love him, and I'm helping, I promise. Next.
We don't really have time for another question. It was going to be about our town hall.
Not helping him.
You know, people want...
Anyway, let me tell you why this town hall is good. I'm glad CNN is doing their one with AOC and Bernie after us, because we're doing it with both sides. You should not be playing to one side right now. We'll be right back. Cuomo says he wants to punch pro-Palestinians in the face. Is that what I said? I would never say that. Violence is never an antidote for a battle of ideas. I'm saying I would rather these pro-Palestinian so-called humanitarians just take a swing at their opponents. It would be less toxic than what they're doing right now online. This is not a battle of ideas. This is manufactured because it's monetized on social media. Leland Vittert starts right now.
I'm not sure it's just not a battle of manufactured outrage. I think for a lot of the pro-Palestinian movement, Chris, it goes a lot deeper to the hatred of Jews and the desire to remake the world.
I agree, but I see artifice in that as well. For another time, but a deeper discussion.